I'm Sophie from Sophisticated Organization, and today we're talking about the first 2 weeks of the 6-month Sophisticated Declutter. If you haven't heard of the Sophisticated Declutter, I will link a video where I explain the entire process. But basically, we're starting on January 1st and taking 6 months to declutter our entire homes, and we are starting in the kitchen. And starting with week 1, we are going to be decluttering our fridge and freezer. Today, I wanted to just give a quick overview of what you can expect over the first 2 weeks, some tips and tricks, and I want to make sure that you're also subscribed to my newsletter, so I'll have a link below so you can sign up there, and that you're following me on Instagram for daily motivation and stories and lots of posts that are going to be relating to every space we're decluttering. The first 2 weeks of decluttering are a little bit unique because we're decluttering food, which I think has a different mentality than decluttering a lot of other spaces in our homes. For me, it's really difficult to throw away things that are still good or have a shelf life to them. I don't love throwing away things just for the sake of throwing away things, especially if I can use them. So I'm going to share with you a few ideas that I have around that. But the first thing that you're going to want to do in your fridge and freezer is to start by throwing away things that are expired or have gone bad. You may have products in your fridge that have a long expiration date and a long shelf life. But if you look at the fine print, sometimes it still says use within 7 to 10 days of opening or something like that. So though it hasn't hit its expiration date, you've had it open for a while in your fridge. Throw those types of things away. You might have some other leftovers or expired foods that you can throw away. Shelf life is of course longer in the freezer, but you're still gonna have things that expire in the freezer and things that just aren't as fresh and don't taste as good when they've been in the freezer for too long of a period of time. A lot of things that you might cook and then freeze are best if you use them within 3 months. If there's a ton of freezer burn or anything like that that makes you wanna throw food away, start with that in kind of the first sweep of going through your fridge and freezer. I also love that we're doing this at the beginning of the year, just because you can have a lot of leftovers from the holidays, and that's a great time to go through and get rid of that stuff. But also, many people are setting New Year's goals and resolutions and new intentions, especially when it comes to diet. So this could be a really good time to then look at step 2 and start to remove things from your fridge and freezer that no longer fit with your lifestyle or the types of things that you're eating or your goals or some of those resolutions. Maybe if you have some unhealthy foods that are left over in your refrigerator, this would be a good time to get rid of those as well. The third step, I think, would be looking at foods that you maybe bought for a specific recipe and they've just sat in your refrigerator, or something that's just sat in your freezer for a long time, and you need to critically think about, am I actually going to eat this? Am I actually going to use it up? Maybe you bought it for that recipe and you didn't like that recipe, so you're not going to make it again, or it's something that was more of a goal for you to start eating fill in the blank type of food and you haven't done that and you know yourself and you're not going to do that. I would go ahead and just let those things go. If it is something you feel like you can use up or you can start eating, I would set some sort of a time frame, or maybe add it into your next week or within the next month to your meal plan, so you know that you're going to get to those foods. And that would bring me to the fourth step, which is trying to use up some foods, as opposed to what we've done in the first few steps. The first 3 steps, we've thrown things in the trash can that are no longer usable or we're not going to use. Typically, things that are in the fridge and freezer are pretty tough to donate. But within step 4, we are going to try and consume things ourselves as a way of decluttering. So what I will go through and do is, if there's food items that maybe have just like a little bit left in it, or there are things in my freezer where I made freezer meals, I'm going to add those things to my meal plans and get rid of those freezer meals, get rid of that frozen food. And then with ingredients that you're more likely to find in your refrigerator, I'm going to try and be really creative. I don't know if you've ever watched the show Chopped on Food Network before, but they get these mystery baskets of food items and they have to come up with a meal with whatever's in the mystery basket. I like to play a little game with myself of Chopped and try and come up with a recipe or a meal to use up those items and get rid of it that way, so I don't feel like I'm wasting money or wasting food. There are some websites, which I will link in the description box below, a few examples where you can type in a few different ingredients and it will generate a recipe that uses those ingredients, which is a great way to follow a recipe if you're more of a recipe follower than somebody who's going to think creatively and just wing it in the kitchen a little bit. So So that is your goal for week 1, is to go through your refrigerator and your freezer, get both of them decluttered. I would also say this is a great time to give your refrigerator a quick clean out on the inside as you're pulling everything out and going through all the food items. Just wipe it down a little bit, wipe off the outside of it, which also brings up the point, if you have a bunch of magnets and clutter on the outside of your refrigerator, please take this time in week 1 to declutter that as well. If you have a refrigerator that you can store things on top of, also do that. If you're feeling really ambitious, pull your refrigerator out, clean out from under it, clean all of the surfaces as well. But really what we're trying to do this first week is just to declutter our refrigerator and our freezer. That brings us to week 2. Week 2 is the pantry. One of my favorite places to organize, but it can also be a breeding ground for clutter, which is a little bit surprising because we don't think of food as clutter a lot of times. I would suggest following the same 4-step process that we used with the fridge and freezer, getting rid of those expired products, getting rid of foods that you're not gonna eat, foods that don't fit your lifestyle anymore, foods that you're not gonna use up and you're being realistic about, and then going through and coming up with a meal plan for how to use up some things that you, again, bought for a specific recipe that you haven't used in a while, or something that's almost done or getting close to its expiration date and you wanna move through it. For both the pantry and your refrigerator and freezer, this is a great time to do an inventory and figure out what you have. I have a printable within my Sophisticated Declutter ebook that you can print out and keep track of what's in your fridge and freezer and pantry. And you can use that to help build your meal plan, but also when you're in week 2 going through your pantry, just kind of cross-reference those things that you had left over in your fridge and freezer that you're trying to use up, and you can use those holistically to come up with your meal plan for the next few weeks and continue to declutter your food by making meals for your family and eating it up. The pantry is different from the refrigerator, a little bit more similar to the freezer because there's a longer shelf life on many products that are in your pantry. Things are going to stick around in your pantry a little bit longer, but the shelf life isn't indefinite. So really keep an eye on the expiration dates of products. If you decant like I do, make sure you're writing down the expiration date somewhere so you know how long you've had that item, how long it's been opened. Usually if you have an airtight container, that does help prolong the shelf life, but you still want to keep track of those expiration dates. And if you do decant like I do, it's pretty easy to see what you need to restock on and what you need to buy more of or what you don't need to buy more of, which is one of the huge benefits of decanting. But regardless of what your pantry looks like, I would still create some sort of a list of your pantry staples, the things that you always want to have on hand. And those I always kind of run through every single time I'm going to the grocery store. Do I have enough olive oil? Basics like flour? Do I have rice? So if I'm making a meal on the fly, I'm not out of one of my pantry staples. When we're trying to use up and declutter food, if it's not near its expiration date, I don't try and ever use up those pantry staples of mine because I want to have them in my pantry. But those random things that come into our pantry through whatever means they get there, those are the types of things that I want to move out. So I have mostly those pantry staples and things that I'm cooking on a regular basis. A little pro tip here, I have a bin in my pantry that says this week, and that's what I have my random items that I'm using just for cooking that week. Maybe I bought a loaf of bread because I'm making grilled cheese, or have some sort of special ingredient or something that doesn't have another place in my pantry. I like having that kind of miscellaneous bin for things that are in flux and going in and out of the pantry, and then really focusing on the pantry staples and having that list of mine. And I wouldn't worry about necessarily decluttering those types of things. It's the other types of foods in your pantry you're really gonna wanna work through. And again, you have a whole week to do this, so maybe that feels like a great amount of time for you to get that done. Maybe it feels like too much time, too little time. I have so much faith you can get it done in a week regardless of what you have going on. If you do finish early and wanna do a little bit of organizing, this would be a great time. I also would encourage you to do some cleaning, as I'm going to do with every week of this decluttering process. It oftentimes just makes sense. So if I'm going through all of my spices and pulling them off and seeing if they're full or if they're expired, it's a great time just to wipe them down a little bit or wipe off a shelf in the pantry. You don't have to overthink it and make it this crazy process of I have to do everything in one week. I have to declutter and organize and clean. Don't worry about that, but just throw in a little bit of, when I take something off the shelf, I'm gonna put it back in the right spot. And if I empty out a container, I'm gonna clean it off before I put it back, just to really make the most out of this challenge. So that is all for weeks 1 and weeks 2 of the Sophisticated Declutter. I am so excited. We're feeling super motivated, hopefully, because it is just the beginning of the challenge. Again, make sure to follow me on Instagram. Of course, please be subscribed here and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified of when I'm posting new videos. I have more stuff coming around the fridge, the freezer, the pantry, the rest of the kitchen. So until next time, I will see you all later.